And so with no other introduction, Peter has been the president of Michigan State University, and now he's the president here at APLU. So I'll let Peter come up, and he's going to give you some brief remarks.
Well, thank you, John, and thank you for all that you do, your leadership with this conference. And we all appreciate APLU with the other organizations that have put this together. I hear that this conference is going pretty well. Is that right? Well, good. Now, just a few brief words about what we're trying to do here. It's important for the individual student that we are successful. Knowing many of you and many others like you and my associations over the years, I know when you think about being more successful on retention and graduation, you have some people that you've known or do know in mind. So it's about individuals. But it's also about the society as a whole. The shocking figures that keep on sticking in my mind of 80% of the sons and daughters of the highest income, 25% income group in this country get college degrees, 80%. And 8% of the lowest quartile, the sons and daughters of that quartile, don't get a college degree. Now that's pretty shocking, isn't it? Now, some of we've had that differential for a long time, but I think perhaps it's greater than ever. And it's really not a moral matter for us to accept. What do we do about it? Well, the good news is that some places, some institutions in this country are in fact really producing higher retention and graduation levels. The good news, maybe we can't do everything we'd like, but we certainly have a lot that we know we can do. Well, how do we do that? Well, you're spending these days thinking about that, and I bet every one of you could give a talk just like I'm about to, actually. But to summarize at least my views, is I think, first of all, it takes leadership in the institution. It's the president who clearly has to set the tone and drive. It's the provost, it's the deans, and it's energetic faculty. But it has to be driven. And then with the tools, the structure that leadership needs to have or put in place, I think is fairly straightforward. Complex as you unfold it, but fairly straightforward. Most of our institutions don't know very much about ourselves. Most of us don't know the cost and in detail of the departments, the colleges, the universities. And we can't allocate the money, our expenses, to the outcomes we've agreed upon if you don't really know what that's about. We're not nearly as good at this as, for example, hospitals generally are now, and hospitals weren't 20 years ago, by the way. It takes an institutional research office or something like that, working with the finance office, really to put that together. But all the important initiatives we're talking about, don't forget, you've got to know where you are and where you want to go and have the figures and the capacity for the leadership to make decisions to get there. But of course, knowing about where you are, where you want to go with the figures doesn't in itself get it done. We know that it takes the leadership at the president's, provost, deans, chairs levels just to watch it, work at it. What are your figures this year compared to the last? How come this college is doing better than another college within your university? Nothing like having those figures available to everybody to make some people feel glad and other people feel, why aren't we there? And then I think, as you drive this, there's clearly some things that can be done, aren't there? And you're hearing about them. John Lee told me today that he'd earlier said to the group, we need to be the business of stealing and copying. And I think that's not a bad way to look at this, really, because there are some things that many places are doing. We know that the gateway courses are often places of failure. And by the way, that's true at places like Michigan State, and it's true throughout higher education. We have not been nearly as good at gateway courses as we should be. Now, some of the answer, in my belief, is to have at least part of many of those gateway courses, like math, calculus, whatever, have some component of information technology used to drive it. I'm not trying to tell you how everything should be done, but I think we see examples of how that really does make a difference. The information technology as components of courses has a great advantage of giving feedback of how the student is doing very early. If they're not getting at that part of the course, if they don't do it, when they stumble on some component of it, it can feed back in. Now, you've been, data analytics, the tracking of students, advising when you need to, that linking into the gateway courses. Now, I don't mean to stand up here and give you a long list, because I think we know of many things that, in fact, work. And the mix is going to be a little different for each campus, but I think the themes are present. The question is, can we have leadership commitment? Can we understand who we are? And can we drive it? Ask you an APLU at the end of 2012 put together a commitment from almost 500 public universities. Frankly, most of you here were involved in this. A commitment that we would do our part to produce 60% of the working age population by 2025 having a degree. There we are right here. What institution is that?
Lumina Foundation.
The Lumina, and you were key. And you've got that figure. So that's the Lumina, that parallels the Lumina goal so importantly. Well, I think, and that, by the way, means that you have, that we would produce over 2011 steady state numbers of degrees, 3.8 million more degrees. And you look at those figures, all mapped out in that paper. Many of you have seen that paper. It's practical. I think that, in my mind, this question of whether we get this done, as I say, goes back to that individual you can see in your own mind that has a decent income and opportunity, and it's about society as a whole. And I think, perhaps, and I don't think this is overly dramatizing it, I really do think this is a moral issue. And it's up to this generation of leadership, faculty, to make sure we deliver. It's good to see you. Your commitment is reflected by your being here and struggling. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Now we're going to have, one of the things what we never want to do is talk about students without having students actually be a part. And so I do want to let you know and put in a plug, there's going to be a student-led session. And it's going to be in the concurrent sessions that are going to be right after lunch, after our lunchtime. But we've had a very interesting year, over the last year. So you heard from Chad yesterday that Chad Womack, who's at UNCF, Director of STEM Initiatives, and also the MERC program, that we've been in, along with APLU and the White House Initiative on HBCUs, we've been involved in an initiative that's about bringing innovation and entrepreneurship to colleges and universities, particularly HBCUs. And so we started off in 2013 with HBCU Summit that was at Stanford University in Palo Alto, Texas. We were able to go over to Google and Facebook and really engage in Silicon Valley. And what we're thinking about in this effort is how do we introduce our students to those 21st century skills that will also lead to student success that's around innovation and entrepreneurship. Commercialization? Are we taking advantage of all the enterprises that we have on our campuses? Because we know that the research says that students who are engaged early in research, who are engaged in their majors earlier, who are engaged in what they're doing, are more likely to graduate. So we know that. We know that student success is a part of how do you engage the student early in what they're doing. And so we were able to bring together 15 HBCUs with the support of the Wilkinson Foundation, who you'll hear from later, to actually come. We brought in faculty and students, but we had students who came and became a part of our University Innovation Fellows Program, which is a part of the partnership with the National Collegiate Inventors and Innovators Alliance. If you haven't heard of them, NCAA, not NCAA, but NCAA. We do want you to look them up. They're a really, really great organization. We've been happy to work with them. But our students were able to come out to San Jose in March with a program that was led by APLU, but was a joint effort with several organizations, UNCF, we also had the White House Initiative. We had the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, of course, sponsored by the Wilkinson Foundation, but Lumina Foundation also supported that effort as well, along with Monsanto. And the students came out and they had a really, really great experience, and we had a really, really good symposium with the faculty and staff. We have 15 institutions. Some of you are in the room, both public and private. HBCUs are part of that initiative, so it goes from Morehouse and Clark, who are here in Atlanta, to FAMU, to I think we have Jackson State. We have, I don't want to go down the whole list. We have Xavier. So there are a range of schools that are part of the initiative, but all about how do you get these new courses in entrepreneurship and innovation to your campuses, including in your engineering and science disciplines. How do you become more interdisciplinary? How do you think about your commercialization and innovation and the work that you're doing in research and all of that important work that's going on with patenting and things at HBCUs. HBCUs have received, I don't know if everybody knows, but has received over 100 patents and are working on many, many more at many of our institutions. We've had spin-off businesses, but we want to do more. We want to be able to connect into more of those things and involve our students into that. So we're going to start with 3 of our students who's going to give us reflections on their experience with the Innovation Entrepreneurship Program. And these students were able to come out to San Jose and just really have what I think is a really, really good experience, but I'm going to let you hear from them about their experience. So we're going to start with our first student, who's going to be Ulysses Knight, who's a student at Virginia State University. You can clap for Virginia State.
Good afternoon, everyone. My experience in Silicon Valley, typically this is the Mecca of innovation, one of the hallmark pillars. It was truly an experience of a lifetime. All in all, I mean, whose dream isn't not to want to go to Google and LinkedIn and Stanford and just go in typical shenanigans and actually talk about collaborative ideas and solidify partnerships with university professors as well as students all across the country, policymakers, and industry leaders that's at the top of their class. This experience was truly the experience of a lifetime. And I am truly thankful to everyone that supported us, as well as, the support that we actually had from our fellow students, which was remarkable. As I think about it, back then, I mean, I wouldn't want to go through the rigorous training that I went to before, but it was undoubtedly mind-blowing because it gave me the experience to look at what we have and build off the capacity for the future. I consider this entire project as a resource efficiency, analyzing the resources that are at our university and bridging the gaps to actually attack the idea and bring it to fruition through commercialization. We're not necessarily trying to become rich or famous, but we're actually trying to establish change either in IP or just engagement with students in the classroom. And we have been moving. They actually hear some of these stories that some of these students are doing, and they actually solidify some of the partnerships just by saying, oh yeah, you know, I'm a student, I'm trying to actually do something in the world. I'm not trying to just come here and get a degree, because I understand that it's not a degree that's going to get me to where I want to be. It's the way that I think, the way that I want to attack this situation at hand. And honestly, without the support of this organization and its partnerships, I'm not exactly sure where I will be going, but I know that this has tremendously brought credibility to some of the things that I've been thinking about doing for a very long time. As you guys all know, we cannot continue to think as a university to try to solve these problems. We can't really have one silo of like maybe engineering over here and maybe the liberal arts over here and then business students over here. We have to combine each other's efforts to overall lift our university to tackle these issues. When we're looking at the surrounding communities of our different institutions, we can build off capacity by maybe doing something with the enterprise zones and actually maybe trickling it off and actually making our own Silicon Valleys in our local communities. Creating added value to the student where it's something that's actually tangible, something that they can take home and say, I was a part of that. That's one of the major key components that most students, I feel as though, is not really doing that in the classroom. It's one thing to learn about doing this thing and learn about and hear about what other students are doing, but it's another thing for students to actually have something of their own, to actually turn their dream into a reality. And I am truly thankful that I've been able to get this experience from the APLU. So thank you guys.
Myisha is going to come up to the stage next.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am so glad to be here. I've been excited about the summit ever since I found out. My name is Myisha Moore. I'm a PhD student from Tuskegee University. I am getting my PhD in material science and engineering, and I should be finished. I plan to defend my thesis on June 30th. Coming here today was a breath of fresh air because, as most of you know, getting a PhD is very, very stressful. And so this is a reprieve for me from doing that. That's just a little bit of background about myself. Getting involved in the UIF program was something that was completely different for me. I have been in Tuskegee. I did my undergrad there. I have a bachelor's in biology, and when I finished my bachelor's degree, I was really wondering what I wanted to do next. My original plan was to go there, get my degree in biology, and then possibly go to med school. While there, I decided, hey, I didn't want to go to med school, but I still wanted to be a doctor. So I had to find an alternative. One of the reasons why I was chosen by my administration to be a part of the University Innovation Fellowship Program was because I wanted to commercialize the research project that I was doing. Currently, I'm designing nanoparticles to be used as drug delivery vectors for wound healing therapies. And I wanted to take my research with me after I graduated. Like, some students, they really, I'd say they would engage in their research, but a lot of students don't really want to push to that next step. And so being involved in the UIF program allowed me to understand the steps that I needed to take to commercialize my research, to continue my research, to make my research my business. And that was the most important thing for me. With the training, we were able to learn how to gather our resources, research resources, and connect with others to bring our dreams to reality. And that really helped out the most. When we got to go to the Silicon Valley, San Jose, I was really excited because it was the middle, really it seemed like winter was never gonna end. It was March. Here in Tuskegee, Alabama, it was freezing. So just to go to the Silicon Valley in March was like, great. It was warm, we got to swim, and then I got to meet all of my University Innovation Fellows that I was getting to see on the internet but never face to face. So it was a great way for me to build networks. I met a lot of people, some of which I'm seeing again today, which is very great. But going to Silicon Valley kind of solidified the training that we received online. And the great thing about the UIF training was it was online. It opened up it opened up my mind to realize that we can learn in different ways that we're not or are not practiced at our HBCU. At our HBCU, we have the lecture. You go to class, go for an hour, you get the lecture, come out, do some homework maybe, then go back. But as far as the UIF training, everything was online. We got to see each other and chat using Google+. We learned how to do wiki pages and Prezis, some of the stuff that we're going to see later on, but I got to learn how to utilize different technologies, and I actually have started using those at Tuskegee University, because while there, I got the opportunity to instruct undergraduate laboratory classes, and particularly organism biology. So I got to utilize my training there and practice using some of the technologies in the classroom. And the UIF training has helped me to kind of incorporate that, and then to continue to talk to my administrators and to try to get more technology involved or to utilize more technology at our institution. Because I think that's one of the major problems that we have at HBCUs. We're so traditional that we don't want to blast off into the 21st century, and I think that's what we need to do. And the UIF program has really helped me to get that understanding and actually try to push forward. So that was the best thing that I've learned from the UIF program, and the HBCU collaborative just allowed me to talk more so with the other HBUs and to figure out what their problems was and how their problems matched our problems, and to come up with solutions as to how we could work together and to advance the HBCUs as a whole and also our individual institution. So that was the greatest thing for me, and once again, thank you, Dr. Lee, for inviting me. I hope that we can continue to have stuff like this, because I think that it's very beneficial for us. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. And last but not least, all the way from the University of the Virgin Islands, we have Daricia Wilson. Wilkinson. Sorry, Daricia Wilkinson.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Daricia Wilkinson, and I'm majoring in Information Systems and Technology at the University of the Virgin Islands. And unlike my friends, I was not a part of the University Innovation Fellowship Program. However, I did attend the HBCU Innovation and Entrepreneurship Summit in San Jose. And the ideas and best practices that were given there it affected me so much, not just to gain any information on how to go about setting up the ecosystem on campus, but it affected me career-wise and in my personal goals. I think probably most important thing, a lesson I learned there, is that as HBCUs, we may be struggling, but by no means are we going to remain struggling. The key component, the ideas learned there, sorry. Yes, I think overall, the conference allowed students to be developed as solution makers. And I had no idea about how you go about and set up an innovation club, or how do you inspire students. And going back to my campus and sharing the knowledge that I gained there, I was actually surprised how many students are actually interested in some of the passions that I have. Because the culture that we have on campus at the University of the Virgin Islands right now, it requires a lot of work, and knowing the information that I got at the conference, no, I'm definitely sure that the University of the Virgin Islands will benefit, and all the students, sorry. Yes, I'm sure that the University of the Virgin Islands will benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. So as you can see, we really do have some dynamic students on our campuses. And I encourage you to make sure that students are part of your process as you are thinking about student success, as you're thinking about making the improvements. Make sure that you ask students what they're looking for, what types of things are there, because you're learning about how to facilitate student success can be exponential if you understand that students are part of the process. And as I said, the students have their own session. We have about 3 other students who are going to be a part of that session as well. And I don't know what they're going to do because they set it up themselves. It's a part of their being innovative and being entrepreneurial. They did meet. They talked about their presentation. And so if you're interested in that, it's going to be coming up.